Hello, Huntsville. Should I be looking that way, though?
Yeah.
Instead of looking at you? Okay. Hello, Huntsville. Hello, Huntsville.
Hello, Huntsville. I'm Cynthia Joyner. Welcome to this first episode of our podcast, Hello, Huntsville. This podcast is about all things Huntsville: food, music, neighborhoods, festivals, nonprofits, media personalities, on and on. We'll be looking at all the people, places, things, and events that make the Rocket City one of the best places in America to live. Today, my lifelong friend Pam Williams is with me. Pam is the Tourism and Education Sales Manager for the Huntsville-Madison County Convention and Visitors Bureau. Hey girl, can you believe we've known each other for 32 years?
32 years. Where's the time gone?
I know. We've had some great experiences. Do you remember that time we were at the Civic Center and Prince was in town and we ran into each other and I said, girl, don't be surprised if I don't end up on stage with Prince tonight. And what happened?
Yes, you did, but I didn't, and I was jealous, very jealous of that.
I know. Most of my friends couldn't believe that I was on stage with Prince. That was such a great experience. Going back during that time to now, we have had some great times in Huntsville. Like, what about the event that was at Mars Hall? I ran into you there.
Yeah, that was their opening event. That was right before COVID, too, and that was a great event. That was a kickoff for that.
I enjoyed that. I thought that was just a takeoff to Huntsville, like new things happening. A diverse crowd of people doing just great things, enjoying themselves. I thought it was fantastic.
I did too. I really enjoyed it. And I saw a lot of people that you and I knew at that event too.
Oh, yeah. So can you believe where Huntsville is at today?
No, I can't. You're a lifelong Huntsvillian. I'm a lifelong Huntsvillian. And it's really hard for me to remember what it used to be, and I am giving away my age, but 565 was built when I was in high school. So it's hard for me to remember what Huntsville looked like before 565. And it's just ever changing and ever growing, and I love it.
This episode of Hello Huntsville is all about music. And because Huntsville's music history is so rich, this won't be our last episode about music. Today, let's start with Kenny Anderson, Director of the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for the City of Huntsville, and the promoter of one of Huntsville's largest and most popular music festivals, Jazz in the Park Huntsville.
Huntsville, to me, in terms of the music scene, goes back so far, not just because of the actual people who've played, but just the historical context of the area that we're in. When we think about this is a part of North Huntsville, I think about all the great things that happen over in the Shoals area in Florence, and I think about all the great things that have happened in this community, the individuals and now stars who began here, who went on to bigger and greater things, and certainly have established a legacy in terms of the music industry. So many of those people started right here. But you think about also the academic institutions that are here, and I'm thinking right now about the Alabama Maroon and White, the band that plays over there, the legacy of a W.C. Handy that actually taught at Alabama A&M University. And we think also about, to me, the proximity of places like Atlanta, New Orleans, and Birmingham, and Chattanooga, Nashville, Memphis. We're just kind of surrounded by music, so it's almost like an extension of what's happening in those areas. And so this is just a great area to me for music.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, Kenny, tell us how Jazz in the Park actually started in Huntsville.
I met Bernard Lockhart, who was the founder of Magic City Smooth Jazz in Birmingham, Alabama, back in 2015. And Bernard had just gotten a grant to do jazz concerts in 3 different parks, outdoor parks. One of them was Montesano. And my sister knew Bernard, my sister Jackie, and she said, why don't you guys talk? And I got with Bernard. We started talking about how we could support him through my office with some logistical kinds of things, some information sharing kinds of things. We had a 1-series concert on the mountain The performers were Roland Gresham and D. Lucas out of Atlanta. Roland, of course, is here. He's one of those musicians locally based. And that's really how it started. When we had the success on Montesano, Bernard started thinking, as he did so well, innovatively and ambitiously, you got to park downtown. We'd love to work with you on something bigger. And so in 2016, we actually opened up a much bigger event. We did a small concert in 15, which was one person, but our model became concerts every Sunday from about 5 to 9, roughly. And that's how Jazz in the Park started, just with a conversation and an opportunity to work with a pioneer in the area of promoting high-quality jazz concerts for the community. Our very first concert was in 15. We did 3 more shows from 16 to 4, from 16 to 19. Pandemic shut us down in 20. In 21, we did a virtual event, and in 22, we did another live event. So this will be our 7th year on the scene with the full series that we started several years ago.
Tell me this, how have you been able to keep Jazz in the Park free to the community?
Well, with contributions from our amazing sponsors, including our presenting sponsors like Cynthia Joyner and Real Estate Group. I'm very appreciative of sponsors like Cynthia, others who've come on board over the years who have made amazing contributions to this event. It has been amazing how I've been able to either approach people and share the vision of Jazz in the Park, or have people come to me and say, hey, we'd like to be supportive. And it's because of the goodwill of these organizations, these agencies, these businesses, in some instances, these individuals who said, we want to come alongside you and make sure this is possible. We decided we were going to keep this as a free event to honor Bernard Lockhart's formula, which was free concerts where he was doing them in Birmingham. And we would do the legwork. We would do the heavy lifting in terms of finding the sponsorship so that we could make sure it was accessible to all people. It's an interesting element of how Jazz in the Park is in my office right now because I'm in the DEI office. And one of the things that we want to do is eliminate barriers to people in all areas of life. And so we don't want people to have to worry about, spending a ticket, or a family of 3 or 4 who says, boy, we're going to be out of a couple $100s or so in order to see a concert. We want them to come down if they want to buy some food. They can bring their own food if they want to do that. They can hang out and have a good time unencumbered by the cost of a ticket. And so we are very committed to keeping this thing free, and it's because of our sponsors that happens.
Kenny, I'm so proud to be the presenting sponsor for Jazz in the Park again this year for, I think, the 3rd time.
3rd year?
Yeah. And it brings joy to me. It brings joy to our community. And music is just a great way of bringing the community together. And one of my big whys in real estate is giving back to my community. I see Jazz in the Park as a way of giving back to our community. And I hate when people say, oh, there's nothing to do in Huntsville.
Oh, my gosh, I still hear that. I still hear that, and I'm like, you don't get out of your house.
Right, you've got Mid-City, so many great things happening at Mid-City, the camp, right. Mars Hall. There is just so much to do. There's a live band, live music in Providence. You can go to
Stovehouse.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Low Mill with their concert series in the spring and fall. And even, that's another thing. I really like that our attractions are hosting live music. Like Burritt, they have their concert series. And then there's music at the Beer Garden at the Space and Rocket Center. And then Orion.
Oh, yeah.
Fantastic Orion.
Oh, yeah. I've been to several concerts there, and I've really enjoyed myself.
Me too. I went the opening weekend, and I have been, probably 10 or 12 shows since then. And did you see they were just named the number 12 best amphitheater in the world? Oh, yeah, I heard that. That is pretty amazing. They've only been open 15 months. And they're already the 12th best in the world. So wow. And what I've noticed, my husband and I, we've been out on the town, of course, like we do, we're social people. We've noticed more people traveling to Huntsville for events. We ran into people from Nashville,
Atlanta, Georgia. They're coming to our city, girl, for events. Can you believe
Exactly.
that?
I know. It's like we used to travel out. Now we're staying here and people coming. And that's, working with the Convention and Visitors Bureau. That's what we want. We want more people to come in and enjoy our community and everything that we offer, and then have a wonderful time, go home and tell all of their friends so that they can come back and visit with us.
We can't talk about the music scene and how far it has come without talking about Kelvin Wooten. Grammy winner, celebrity producer, songwriter, keyboardist, bass player, Huntsville native, J.O. Johnson Jaguar, Alabama A&M Bulldog, and he still calls Huntsville home. I know you've worked with some of my favorite artists, such as Anthony Hamilton, Jill Scott, Tony.
Yeah.
Tell me, what was it like working with Anthony Hamilton?
Anthony is a musical. If we had musical parents, we definitely would be brothers.
Oh my!
If our parents were of a musical form, that's actually my brother, and we get along really well. He's one of the best people to work with. Who you see on stage as a entity or a persona is Anthony. He's that off the stage. He's 100% him all the time. So it's, you always know what you're going to get. And I like working with him because he always will bring an element of a Southern sophistication. One of the things that, we're proud to be from the South, both of us. So we like to keep that kind of grit in the music. And so, yeah, he's one of my favorites.
Sure.
Favorite people, too. Yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
So being from Huntsville, what was it like going to the Grammy? What was that experience like?
It was amazing. So this would be the second time I've gone to the Grammys.
Okay.
First time winning. The whole experience completely changes after you win.
Okay.
And so, it's just to be amongst a lot of your peers. I obviously, well, maybe not obviously, but a lot of people should know. I would want them to know that. I mean, I just do the music for the sake of doing art and me loving it, not for any sort of award or accolade. But the Grammy award is an award that is voted on by your peers in the industry. It's not a people's choice sort of thing. So when your peers, review you at that level, it feels good. It feels good. And it kind of helps you get into some rooms that you probably always was working hard to get into. It kind of eases up the grease on the door so you can get in a little bit.
Right.
But it was a great experience. Me and my wife went. So it's the first time going for her.
Okay.
And just being on the red carpet and meeting all the people was, yeah.
Well, it was certainly a big win for Huntsville, having someone like you represent the city of Huntsville. So
Yeah.
I'm very proud of you, and I congratulate you.
Hey, well, thanks. I try to make sure I don't post a lot of things. Most of the things I post on social media are mostly work related. And so I knew that posting this one would be something that I could make my city and bring my city up with and say, hey, y'all, we got this,
Right.
Because everything that went into the work, and I correlated with being from Huntsville, just trying to be rooted and staying grounded. And my creativity is definitely best here than for me of all the places that I've been. And so the work that I did on the song that got the Grammy, I did it here. So
Wow.
yeah, it's fitting to say that the Huntsville got it. So
Yeah, sound like you have a true love for Huntsville.
I do. With all cities, with all relationships, there's always some things you like about it and things you don't.
Right.
But I'm sticking with it. I'm sticking with Huntsville being home, and for the foreseeable future, I'll be here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell me, what makes Huntsville so special to you?
The nostalgia. I'm really big on nostalgia, and I can catch, I guess, quote unquote, a vibe, from just being in a place. Growing up in Huntsville, growing up on the north side, almost every weekend I go to the north side. Me and my wife, we're both from the north side. We drive, we get in the car, and we just take the tops off the Jeep and just drive in the north side and just kind of feel that feeling of when we were kids, we were innocent, and those things, when my creativity was just being started and getting birthed. I try to always keep my mind in that place, in that setting. So the music isn't really that tainted, you know, it isn't jaded with the industry part of it, the business and all those things. And when I think about creating music when I was a kid, it's easy just to go down Maston Lake, you know, go drive over by the old Davis Hills and just get that feeling of like, man, when I was making music back then, I didn't have a care in the world. So you bring that back home, and when you make music, you still have that feeling. So yeah, that's what's special about Huntsville to me. And I see it growing, you know, as well. You know, for the good, I see it growing. You know, I see a lot of good things coming into Huntsville musically and a lot more opportunities that I couldn't have. Oh, I didn't think we would have this huge amphitheater and all these other venues, and so it's a good thing. Yeah. It's a good thing to be here and watch it grow too.
What is a typical day like for you?
Typical day. Let's see. I usually I try to treat my weekly work schedule like it's a 9 to 5. I remember being a musician, always saying I always wanted, part of being a musician was trying to run away from that type of lifestyle of work. And then I realized as I got older that it's the thing that works best for me is waking up, you know, 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to say 7 to be more honest. I said 6. I said, boy, I know that's not true. Yeah, my wife can fact check me on that one. But 7, I'll get up between 7 and 8. I get up, make my wife coffee. That's one thing that helps me get up, just doing something for somebody else, you know. Because if I make it, or if she makes it, it's going to wake me up. The grind is because she likes to grind her coffee. So it's going to wake me up either way. So I'm just, let me get up, grind the coffee, and then I'm up and I'm moving. And then always prayer and meditation first, you know. I either do that while I'm walking around the neighborhood. I go to the gym and walk the track. And that's like a must. I got to do that. Just kind of set the tone for the day. And then I get in and start working till about 5 o'clock. And, you know, I skip lunch most days and just work, you know, keep my head down. And the goal for me is to write at least 3 to 5 songs a day. Okay. You know, so within a week, I got about, you know, 15, 20 songs, you know, to send out. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Very impressive. Yeah. So, you know, growing up in Huntsville and going to concerts when you were younger, can you tell me who were some of your favorite artists back in the day?
Back in the day, my favorite artist back in the day, still one of my favorites, and they're about to go back on tour, is Tony. Okay. That's one of my favorite artists. Okay. When I was in high school, in my mind, I was the fourth Tony. It was Tony. Okay. If you could spell it another way, I was that one. And it was kind of crazy how I even met them, but that's a whole nother story. But yeah, they were one of my favorite groups, Mint Condition. Okay. All of the R&B groups that were on the radio where I saw musicians being involved, those are my favorites. So Tony, Mint Condition. There's a group, Low Key. I don't know if y'all remember Low Key. I think I've heard of Low Key. Low Key. They had this song, I Got a Thing for You. They were signed by Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. Okay. So Low Key, any bands, any musical situations. Portrait was a favorite group of mine. I'm speaking 90s groups. So, and I'm dating myself, but who cares?
So, are there any particular artists that influenced you to be the person that you are today?
Yeah, I speak of Tony, but the lead singer, Raphael Sadiq, was the lead singer for the Tonys, and he's a friend of mine as well as a mentor. When I was a young up-and-coming producer, he was one of the first producers I worked with right out of high school, somewhat into college. I started working with him, and he just kind of opened my eyes to see. I didn't know what production really was. I knew what making music was, but I didn't know what music production was. And when it got into being in the studio and producing artists, and we produced a ton of artists from 95 all the way up to 2005, 2006. So he's one of my major industry influences. I would say, just because he's a musician, you know, and he had a knack for producing artists outside of his genre or within his genre, but giving them something that felt like him. You know, he did the Beyonce song. He worked on the Beyonce song, Cuff It. which a lot of people don't know, but he's playing bass with Nile Rodgers playing guitar. He has a big influence on that music, Solange. He scored the music for the hit series Insecure, too. So just, all of that kind of stuff, just learning about all of that and knowing what it is. I saw it firsthand with him doing it. And so, yeah, that's my brother right there. That's another brother from another mother. So this is kind of a story of how I kind of got discovered. Yeah, so, and this connects Alabama A&M particularly too. So I was a student at Alabama A&M. I was either a freshman or a sophomore. I'm going to say a sophomore. And I realized when I got in college, I really didn't like going to class. So but I was really into music. And so one of the days I was skipping class, for all those listening, I don't advise you skip class. And I was paying for school. I'm paying for school and I'm skipping class. It's crazy. But I'm skipping class this day and I'm sitting with a Huntsville musician who's no longer with us now, Spanky Eddie Alford. Look him up. He's played on tons of records. D'Angelo, Roots, Tony, Eric Benet, you name it. He's Mighty Clouds of Joy, all kinds of stuff. And so we were church members. We played at the same church. And so I will always go over to his house, skip class, and practice with him, like shed, as musicians call it. Like he'll show me some stuff on the guitar. I played on the keyboard. So it just so happens one day, Raphael Sadiq at the time called him to work on a project for Higher Learning, the movie Higher Learning. The song was Ask of You that he did. He was been looking all over the place for Spanky and finally got a number because he liked the Mighty Clouds of Joy and found the guitars for the Mighty Clouds of Joy. It just so happens that the day that he called, I was at Spanky's house skipping class. And I was in the background playing a Wurlitzer keyboard. And Raphael telling me this part of the story, he said, man, I couldn't really talk and concentrate talking to Spanky because I kept hearing somebody in the background playing. It's like, man, who is that playing? And Spanky was telling them, he said, oh, man, just this kid skipping school. Pay him no mind. But he sounds good, though. He sounds good. He said, you want to talk to him? And Spanky knew that I was a huge Tony fan. Again, in high school, I was like the poor Tony. And it just so happens that Raphael Sadiq is calling Spanky's house the day that I'm skipping class. I'm there. And I talked to him. He said, hey, man, man, you sound pretty good. You ever worked in L.A. before? I said, man, I haven't left the state of Alabama. And so he asked me would I want to come to California and work? And I said, sure. So I tag along with Spanky and with I wasn't even there, no purpose other than just to kind of hang out. And before you knew it, I started playing on stuff that they were working on. My Bee Gees was the first record I played on, our first Raphael Sadiq production. And then it turned into us writing songs and, years later I'm here. So amazing. It's kind of, I know it was divinely orchestrated. It could not have been another way that I was such a huge fan of them. If it had been anybody else on the phone, I wouldn't have cared. But it just happened to be Raphael Sadiq. Wow. And so, yeah. And, Spanky being one of my mentors too, which I probably failed to mention before. Two people I looked up to a lot. So to start my career with those two guys, yeah, it was amazing. Yeah.
Great story.
Yeah.
What's the first concert you ever attended in Huntsville and what was that like?
New Kids on the Block. Okay. Was the first concert. I remember going to the Von Braun and seeing New Kids on the Block. And I remember being fixated on the bass player. The bass player was, and I can't remember his name, but I know the next time I saw him, he was playing bass for Michelle Ndegeocello, which is one of my favorite bass players. Okay. He was playing bass, bagging up her. And I was like, man, this is the same dude from New Kids on the Block. And it was at that moment I knew that you can have a lot of depth in just width to what you do musically. You don't have to just play a musician for pop music. You can also be a part of something. Michelle is definitely other. She's alternative R&B at the time. So that kind of definitely sparked my mind to be like, I can play in a whole bunch of places if I want to at once. I don't have to be just this kind of guy, Right. I can move around. So Yeah, that concert shook me, and the screams of the girls, that high-pitched scream, I can still hear it in my ears.
Hello Huntsville is hosted by Cynthia Joyner. Cynthia Joyner and Jeff Morlock are the executive producers. This podcast is produced and directed by Keith Matthews and David Person, with production assistance from Jeremy Person. Jake Martin and Hans Guger provided remote and in-studio audio engineering and other technical support. Chad Bell is the production administrator. Patricia Miranda is in charge of podcast platform management. The podcast theme was written and produced by Kyle Wimbish and David Person. Spread the word about Hello Huntsville, the first podcast that makes Huntsville, Alabama, the star.